I recently uploaded a video on the indefensible decision of ACC Nicholas Davison to grant anonymity to a married Norfolk police constable known only as Officer Y, who was fired after paying for sex with prostitutes in brothels across the county. The law establishes a presumption of open public hearings. Transparency is not optional, it's a fundamental requirement of the police disciplinary process. Anonymity should only be granted in truly exceptional circumstances where it can be fully justified and properly balanced against the principles of open justice, accountability, and public interest and confidence. Yet within Norfolk Constabulary, a force that has repeatedly shown contempt for those very principles, anonymity is fast becoming routine. This marks a dangerous shift further away from transparency and toward a culture of secrecy and impunity. When anonymity is handed out so readily, it shields misconduct from scrutiny and reinforces the contention that there is one rule for the police and another for everyone else. Another stark example is the case of Officer D. Despite a sustained pattern of deeply disturbing behaviour spanning several years, he not only retained his job and continues to serve as a constable in King's Lynn, but he does so under the protection of anonymity. Officer D, who was a sergeant when the misconduct took place, made a series of sexist and derogatory comments to a female colleague, which she described as a character assassination that left her feeling numb. A few months later, on the 2nd of March 2023, in relation to the murder of Sarah Everard, he said words to the effect of, "Well, if they paid us more, we wouldn't have to rape and murder women or kill prostitutes after we fuck them." When this particular comment was addressed in the misconduct hearing, a witness, almost certainly another constable, backed Officer D, telling the panel that the comment was made in jest. Unbelievably, the misconduct panel agreed that it did not represent the true beliefs of Officer D, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, evidence clearly revealing a deeply disturbing pathological hatred for women. On the 9th of March, just a week after he made a mockery of the rape and murder of Sarah Everard, he was caught on the body-worn camera of another constable making offensive, derogatory and demeaning comments towards an intoxicated woman who'd been involved in a domestic dispute. He ridiculed the woman's accent and told her she could only get out of the car once she had grown up. When the vulnerable woman, sufficiently provoked, kicked out at Officer D, he said, "What a fucking silly little girl." Other comments included, "What sort of mother are you? You horrible girl. You're vile, aren't you? You're absolutely disgusting, and you foul creature." When challenged about this interaction, Officer D denied that the conduct breached professional standards, a position that speaks less to misunderstanding and more to a complete lack of honesty and accountability. On the 12th of March, he was on patrol in King's Lynn and, whilst in a police car with a female colleague, made discriminatory comments about a group of women, calling one a fat slut. On this occasion, his comments weren't caught on camera, so rather than defending them, he simply denied making them, despite his colleague's unequivocal testimony. On the 2nd of April 2023, he made a sexually inappropriate comment to a female colleague, and in April 2024, he was heard saying to a number of colleagues, "Shall we go and see what horny ladies we can find?" And later, about some women seen fighting on CCTV, "That's just some slags having a punch-up." Once again, he didn't have the courage or integrity to own up to what he'd said and denied making the comments. The panel found that the allegations amounted to misconduct and highlighted that it was repeated behaviour affecting multiple victims. But in spite of the seriousness of his conduct, Officer D was allowed to keep his job and was merely handed a reduction in rank. Their pitiful justification for this decision was his previously unblemished record and the respect of his colleagues. But this doesn't justify their decision, rather it raises a more troubling question. What does it say about the culture within Norfolk Constabulary that a man who repeatedly expresses such contempt for women is held in high regard. They also said that he showed genuine remorse and a desire to improve, but denying clear, evidenced behaviour is not remorse, it's self-preservation. This revolting excuse of a man probably has profound mummy issues or is an incel who's been frequently rejected by women. This was not a single off-colour remark, it was a pattern. Repeated, consistent, and directed at multiple women. It reflects not a momentary lapse in judgment, but a mindset entirely incompatible with the role of a police constable. Allowing this cretin to remain in post is a slap in the face to the constables who spoke out, no doubt a very small number relative to those who sought to excuse and protect him. Those constables now have to work alongside Officer D in an environment where misconduct is minimised and whistleblowers are ostracised and targeted. Decisions like this don't just fail victims, they actively discourage others from coming forward when it's already completely at odds with the policing culture to do so. Officer D is a deviant, dangerous individual, and allowing him to remain in a position of power and authority over members of the public is absolutely diabolical. The decision reflects the all-time low that policing has sunk to, an institution that is rotten to the core, an institution that has learnt nothing from the crimes of David Carrick, Wayne Couzens, and other offending constables who showed all the warning signs that Officer D so clearly displays. The police rhetoric about ending violence against women and girls is empty, performative, and entirely meaningless. And if that weren't bad enough, despite the seriousness of his conduct, he too has been granted anonymity, seemingly with no justification. Because of this, members of the public, including vulnerable women, victims of abuse, and those in crisis, could encounter Officer D without any knowledge of his attitudes and behaviour. They're being denied information they're entitled to, and which they need to make informed decisions about their own safety and the trust they put in constables they encounter, which, in my opinion, of course, should always be absolutely fucking none. The police complaint system in the UK is fundamentally unfit for purpose, with the vast majority of complaints, including serious and well-evidenced complaints, being routinely downplayed or dismissed by so-called professional standards departments, whose real job is to act as spin doctors for the police and explain away blatant misconduct and criminality. Every now and then, a dismissal is used to create the illusion of police accountability, but increasingly, even those cases are shielded from public scrutiny through anonymity. A review of misconduct hearings within Norfolk Constabulary in recent years shows this is not an isolated issue. Dirty cops are repeatedly protected from identification, and this extends well beyond officers Y and D. If you believe in transparency, accountability, and the equal application of the law, then you should be outraged, because this is exactly how double standards take root and become normalised. It's how those in positions of power insidiously carve out protections for themselves that the rest of us will never receive. This cannot be allowed to stand. Sign and share the petition linked in the description, demanding the lifting of these reporting restrictions and the proper application of laws that the police and those supposedly governing them think they're above.